Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist Jim Dickey here in the ABC7 Forecast Center with another edition of Tracking the Tropics. Now, if you told me a couple weeks ago that I would have done two of these videos before the actual start of the season, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But here we are, May 11th, and we're on our second edition. Two things to look at here today. There's our first depression of the season in the Eastern Pacific, and some trouble trying to brew in the Gulf of Mexico. Let's start in the Pacific, way up in the corner of your screen. That's Baja California. So this is way away from land, and it's going to stay far away from land. Don't know if you can really make it out in this view, but there's our depression. It's the blow up right in the center of your screen, and actually the center is outrunning that bright area, that blow up of thunderstorm activity, which means it's not really a healthy system. It's tilted as you go up, and we want to see, for a healthy tropical system, it to be stacked vertically in the atmosphere. It's facing some very strong westerly shear. So, despite the fact it came together yesterday, likely not long for this world. There's the official forecast. It's going to drift its way to the north and west. This is just going to be a storm for the history books. Notice no land in this view, not impacting absolutely anyone here going forward, and likely to fall apart over the next couple days. So let's switch gears and talk about the Atlantic, and in particular the Gulf of Mexico, on into Cuba. Generally speaking, when we get tropical systems this time of year, they tend to come from non-tropical origins. Stalled out front, upper level low that sort of stalls out and spins around over warm waters. So keep that in mind as we talk about the setup here over these next couple days, close to home. You're seeing lots of cloud coverage right now in Cuba, in the Gulf of Mexico, and this is as we have a stalled out frontal boundary sitting out across the Florida Straits. It marks the edge of deep tropical moisture that's lifting its way into South Florida, and the dry air that's been hanging around in Florida all week, keeping it dry in Florida, and no rain whatsoever here these past couple days. Now, right now, those two air masses are colliding. It's providing lots of cirrus clouds in the atmosphere and flooding into Florida right now. But the rain is going to hold off until we get to the weekend, until that moisture lifts its way in, and that's exactly what it's going to do. Now, that dashed line just means broad low pressure. So the broad low pressure, the tropical moisture, moves its way in tomorrow, but definitely once we get to Sunday. Now this model is showing the moisture all the way northward into Orlando and Tampa, certainly anchored into southwest Florida. So you have your fuel for heavy rain. That's the tropical moisture. You have your trigger to kick off some showers and some thunderstorms. That's the broad low pressure overhead. At this time, too, an upper level low pressure system is going to start to close off over the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So all of that is going to translate to a wet pattern as we go through the second half of the weekend, Sunday, into next week. There's Saturday, the front lifting its way northward, most of the rain staying in extreme South Florida. Going to be a rainy day in Miami and the Keys. But for us here in southwest Florida, just a couple thunderstorms. Sunday, different story. Your low lifts its way north. Look at all the rain this model is developing along that stretched out low. I also want you to note the streamlines. That's showing you the winds at the surface. Notice it's starting to close off. Seeing your counterclockwise flow, localized area of low pressure forming up in this model at the surface. It's not out of the question we could get something with a little bit of a tropical flare to form up here in this situation. Stalled upper low, broad low pressure overhead, maybe a weak tropical system, subtropical, hybrid, regardless. The impact is going to be the same in Florida. It's going to be rounds of slow-moving, soaking rainfall. And here's the same model through Monday. I'm piling up all that rain. And actually, I have 2+ here, but that bullseye you see of deep red, west of Naples, south of Sanibel, that's the model saying the potential for over 6 inches of rain. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly where that's going to line up, but the conditions, the ingredients will be in place for a soaking rain event. The question is exactly where does that rain set up? And that still is yet to be seen. Something you continue to check in with the forecast on as we hone in on where exactly this rain is going to set up. But the pattern is in place. What I'm trying to make here, the pattern is in place for some soaking downpours starting Sunday and lasting into next week. The tropical moisture working in, broad low swirling will help to trigger rounds of that heavy rainfall. And again, it's not out of the question. Something tries to spin up here, and maybe this gets an 8. It's a low chance. If it were, it would be Alberto. And there's the list of names for 2018. We're still 2 weeks away, but just 2 weeks away from the official start of hurricane season on June 1st. So here's your takeaways. Yes, we have our depression in the Pacific. No, it's not going to impact anyone. A fish storm and likely falling apart over the next 24 to 48 hours. That is. Area of low pressure drifting northward into Florida. Deep tropical moisture moving in. We're going to see some soaking rainfall, some much needed rainfall here this weekend. And of course, hurricane season just a couple weeks away. Official start will be June 1st. Again, I'll be doing these videos throughout the hurricane season, keep you updated on everything going on across the Atlantic. We'll see about next week. Maybe another one of these. Maybe try to focus in on the forecast for the upcoming season. If not, I'll be back the next week and every week thereafter as we go all the way through November. So until next time, meteorologist Jim Dickey. Stay dry this weekend.